Hello everyone, my name is Pooja. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't been here before, welcome. I make videos about books and hopefully some other random things in a little while as well, but anyway, I'm excited for today's video, and I've got my iced coffee from Dunkin'. I definitely prefer Dunkin' to Starbucks. I think that's might be a hot take everywhere except for Boston, but it's my thought. Anyway, so 2020 has been a crazy year, obviously, and just like so much has happened. I actually saw this funny TikTok the other day where it was like God talking to an angel, and he's like, have you put in all the crises that are supposed to happen for the 2020s? And then the angel's like, oh, was it supposed to be the whole decade? Because I definitely just put all them into one year, and that I don't know, that like encapsulated things so well for me. But it's definitely been a crazy year. So much has happened, and it's kind of easy to forget, each thing that has happened because something crazier keeps happening in the next few weeks. Like, do you guys remember how in January, Australia was literally on fire? And like, nobody remembers that anymore because just so much has happened since then. So I actually thought it'd be interesting to try to encapsulate the year, thinking about all the crazy crises that have happened, and then recommend some books that might actually help to have a more positive outlook on how things might improve in future years, responding to specific crises. So I was thinking about that for a while, and I was like, okay, maybe I should like look through news articles or something. But then I remembered that every year all the big English language dictionaries pick like a word of the year, and I think this year Merriam-Webster and someone else picked pandemic, obviously, but Oxford actually decided to do a list of words. They usually just pick one word, but this year they released this like long report that has, I don't even know, like 20 or 30 words in it. So I'm not going to do all of them, but I thought I would pick a few of those words of the year and talk about the crises that they're associated with and recommend some books that will hopefully make people feel better about those going into 2021. So stay tuned for all of them. I will be recommending 5 books today. Number 1 is impeachment, and this happened in January. President Trump in the US was impeached by the House, and everyone forgot about it because like a month later there was a pandemic. But anyway, that was one of the words, and that happened at the very beginning of this year, and it was kind of a crazy time because it was sort of the culmination of all these crises that happened throughout the Trump presidency, and hopefully that's over now. But anyway, my recommendation, if you want to feel a little bit better about political things related to President Trump, is to read A Promised Land by Barack Obama. I just made a review about this. I'm aware of that. So if you just watched that, sorry, but also not sorry. But this is a great book, and it kind of helps you jump into the mind of a US president who sensibly addresses crises. Whether or not you agree with his politics, he does present himself as a very thoughtful president, someone who thinks through everything that's happening around him, takes advice of people who are experts in their fields, and then takes action on those things and takes responsibility for the things that he does. And I think that this is just such a well-written book that kind of walks through all of the crises that befell the Obama presidency. So it definitely made me feel a lot better about what was happening in the current realm of politics, as well as kind of gives you a deeper insight into what a president actually thinks about. So I think this is a great recommendation if you want to feel better about the word impeachment. The second word is actually 2 words. It's actually a phrase and a word, but it's Black Lives Matter and allyship. Now, these 2 things should have been on the forefront of everyone's minds forever, but this summer, they really gained a lot of traction after the events related to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and countless other Black Americans took place, and it kind of came to a head thinking about the relationship that Black Americans have with the police, the relationship that people of different races in the US have with each other, and it was not only in the US, but extrapolated to diversity and relations between groups of different races in many other countries as well, and started a lot of conversations. Now, I could recommend, of course, many books written by Black authors or about the experience of being a Black person. However, I thought that one book that made me actually really think deeply about being Black in a country that's not the US, and kind of thinking about how this is more of a global issue, was Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. I've recommended this before in some video, and I read it quite a long time ago, But this is just an excellent book that talks about the experience of being both black and white in apartheid South Africa, and kind of takes you on this journey that Trevor Noah, who's a comedian who writes in a very funny, sarcastic manner, through a very, very serious subject. And so I actually didn't know a ton about apartheid South Africa. I hadn't done a lot of research into it before, but I thought this book did a really good job of just sort of painting the picture of what it was like to live as someone who was sort of, balancing these two disparate parts of his identity and kind of how he went through those things. And I thought his discussion of how his mother, who is black, handled her life and how she's really the hero of the story. It's a memoir, but it's honestly him writing about his mother. And she's just such a fantastic human being. I was going to say character, but she's a real person. Just such a fantastic human being, and this is a great book that will definitely make you think more deeply about issues related to things like Black Lives Matter and allyship, and how we can all do a better job of just being kind to each other, which is really at the crux of the matter. Okay, number 3 is a bunch of different words, and they're all related to like this situation that we've all been in because of the pandemic, and they are bubble, pod, quarantine, and shelter in place. Now, these words are low-key triggers for me because it has been so hard for someone who's like kind of, I wouldn't say I'm extroverted, but I definitely enjoy hanging out with people, and I miss all of my friends. I haven't seen many of my friends in a long time in person, and I don't know, we do a good job of keeping up via FaceTime and Zoom and all those things, but it's obviously not the same as seeing your friends in person. So this has definitely been something that has affected so many different people around the world in different ways. A book that actually, I thought, helped me kind of reconcile a lot of the feelings I was having of being like stuck in my house was Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. Now this is a science fiction book, so you're probably like, what does this have to do with the pandemic? It doesn't have anything to do with the pandemic. So the basic premise of this book, which I did recommend in my adventure novels video, is that the world is ending because the moon has been blown apart, and it's basically going to cause this like 1,000-year-long winter. So humanity, to save itself, has built this space station where some people are just going to go live, and they're going to have offspring, and just like the human race will continue there. And at some point, after thousands of years, they'll come back to Earth when it's inhabitable again. That's basically their plan. And it's kind of split into 2 parts, where the first part is really about like, okay, this disaster is happening. We have 2 years to figure out like how to build a space station, and then like the process of doing so and how to get people up there. And then the second book takes place, I think it's like 5,000 years later, and it's about people coming back to Earth and like how things have changed, and it's more of like a Star Wars-esque type of thing. I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's relevant to the idea of quarantining because there is a lot of discussion in this about what it's like to be stuck in a spaceship with the only people that you'll ever see again, and people in your family are just like gone, and you're selected to take on the human race and move it forward, and you're responsible for that. And that's a lot of a responsibility to put on a few hundred people that are going to, take on the mantle of preserving the entirety of civilization. And so I thought that there were some really interesting discussions in there, and the book ends in a very hopeful way, showing how civilization has continued to prosper, how humanity will figure things out, even though there will be stumbles along the way. So I thought this book would give people a lot of hope on how to get through this period and how we can still move on afterwards. So highly recommend this one, especially if you like science fiction. Number 4 is the word moonshot. Now, this word I don't think was really that prevalent in like American discourse necessarily. Yeah, it was the name for the UK government program for finding a vaccine. And so that seems like it's heading in a positive direction. The UK government just approved the Pfizer vaccine this week, and I hear people are already starting to receive it around Europe. So hopefully all those things go well. They're able to distribute it, and it's free or at least very low cost, so people can access it, and hopefully we can get it to everyone around the world. A book that made me feel optimistic about the human ability to innovate and come over the crises that we face is Abundance by Peter Diamandis. Now, this book I read like 6 years ago almost now, and I received it for free through a program at my university because, I don't know, some alum was like affiliated, I don't know. We just got like free copies of this book, and I read it over a summer. And this book is just so optimistic in its outlook towards all the crises we face, from climate change to overpopulation to pandemics to whatever crises you can think of. Peter Diamandis talks about how, in all of history, we've faced so many crazy things as a human race, but we've been able to find solutions for all those things, and we will continue to probably be able to do so in the future. So I think reading this book definitely made me feel better about the human ability to innovate, and I feel that if we're told that everything's going to be a disaster, we won't try to fix it. But if we have hope and we continue to try and solve the problems that we're faced with, we can actually hopefully come up with solutions for them. And I mean, we've done it in the past, so hopefully we can keep doing it in the future. And I don't know, maybe this is too optimistic of a take, but it definitely made me feel better about all the crises that we're facing and just humanity's ability to overcome. So recommend this one as well. And then the last two words that I have are both also related, and that is doom scrolling and infodemic. So both of these words obviously relate to the fact that we stare at our phones and keep looking at all this horrible news that we keep seeing related to the pandemic this year, but also related to other things, and then just in general. And then infodemic, which is kind of related to how there's so much misinformation out there and people just telling lies, and it's just really hard to watch the news or to read the news and not feel like everything sucks and everything is going to be terrible. That's the prevalent feeling one would get after watching any news channel for more than 10 minutes. And there's just nothing positive on the news. And it's hard to always keep in mind that the reason that there's nothing positive on the news is because all these disaster stories are what keep our attention, and that's what gets them ratings, and that's why they keep talking about all those things. There's so many positive things happening, but no one on the news ever talks about them. And then we keep watching those TV programs and reading those articles and think, oh my God, there's nothing good happening in the world. And that's just a really difficult way to live. And so my recommendation for this, a book to read to feel better about these things is Humankind, A Hopeful History by Rutger Bregman. I will put a picture of it up here because I'm reading it via ebook. And like I said, I'm actually reading this book right now, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. The overarching theme of the book is that we've always been told that humans are inherently terrible, but actually we're probably inherently pretty good, kind, decent beings towards each other and can collaborate to make progress for everyone as a collective humanity. And it's just a really hopeful, promising type of premise to have. And Rutger Bregman, this book is actually translated from Dutch, I believe. And so Rutger Bregman kind of walks through all these examples of why things have been presented to us in a way that makes us feel like everything sucks. But actually, if you really dive into it, a lot of those things are probably presented incorrectly, and actually most of the evidence points towards humanity being inherently decent. And he kind of poses it as this Hobbes versus Rousseau type of outlook to take on humanity. And I think just the whole book has made me feel better about seeing all these disaster stories on the news, but then thinking and stepping back and just being like, no, they're just reporting that because it's sensational, and there's actually a lot of good stuff happening in the world too. So that definitely made me feel better about my doom scrolling every morning in bed after I wake up. So anyway, those were 5, actually it came out to a bunch of different words from the Oxford Dictionary's words of the year that describe all the crazy crises that we've gone through in 2020, and hopefully some of these book recommendations will make you feel better about some of these crises. One more thing that I want to tell you guys is I also started a book talk. I didn't know book talk was a thing. I didn't even know how to make TikToks, but my friend taught me last weekend. So I'm on Book Talk now, and I decided that I'm going to use Book Talk for all of my TBRs and wrap-ups, and then my longer form videos will obviously be on YouTube talking about stuff in more detail. So if you're interested in that, the link is below to follow me on TikTok, so you can do that. And those are really fast and easy to make and don't require any editing, so that's why I just decided to do all the TBRs and wrap-ups there, and then this will be for everything else. So hopefully you guys are interested and will follow me. But yeah, that was today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please don't forget to subscribe. Please leave this video a like. And don't forget to comment if you have anything to say about the things that I had to say. I look forward to engaging with you all, and I will see you on the next video. And I'm still drinking my coffee, so hopefully you've gotten yourself a beverage as well. Yeah, that was all for today. Thank you, and bye-bye.